Hello, everybody. This is Bart Sharp, and you are on Becoming Quantum Conscious at United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network, broadcasting out of the beautiful city of New Orleans, Louisiana on 107.7 and 103.5. And also, we're on cable television, Roku, Facebook, X, YouTube, and other internet platforms. And all I can say from the last time I was here last week, it's been 8-8 great for me as the Lion's Gate was swooping in like a lion here in lovely Southwest France. And I was at the Stargate Mountain Peak de Bougarage for 3 out of the 4 nights, watching UFOs buzz around and lights come out of the mountain and flashes of light. And then, of course, the uh, regular shooting stars from, I can't remember what it's called, but all of that is happening. And it was just so unique because it just wasn't like one night was enough. And what I realized is this place where we sit is kind of like where the veil is thin. I've watched for UFOs in the area before and never really saw that many. And this is like you're really just dialing them in here. Like they're like on television or something, just going across the sky and all of this stuff. And so as you're under a veil or a little gateway, so to speak, you're really getting lots of great downloads. And of course, my stories are nothing compared to Joe Maltato's and Michelle Devonshire and Alyssa Misano and their exploration of ET and stuff. But I still like to just get a little bit of an in about how fantastic it is to commune with these beings and asking them to commune with you. Yes, they are listening. I get that because every time we did the invitations, invocations, it just seemed like it pumped it up even more. So what fun. And tonight's show we have, or today's show, wherever you're from, we have somebody that's a little under that, I suppose, because she's extremely creative. And I'm going to bring in Gina Starbuck right now. Hey, Gina.
Hi.
Hey, welcome to the show. This is Gina Starbuck from GinaStarbuckCoaching.com. So glad to have you today.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, Gina, just to give you everybody a little bit of bio about her, because I do personally know her. If there's anything that I get from Gina, is the room gets a little bit bigger when she enters into it, just energetically. She just has this dynamic appearance and such. And I think it's served her well because she's been a professional dancer and the LA music dance scene, dance uh, uh, with people like Prince and a lot of that LA elite, but also teaching classes, recording music, uh, and now has taken that creativity, and you're still teaching classes and dance and doing workshops, but also you are taking it into more consciousness work.
Yes,
Right? Yeah.
that's just
So,
it. Thank you for that introduction.
oh yeah, and you know when we go into the title of this show, soul liberation through ecstatic creation, which I just love. Uh, how did you come up from that title, and what does that exactly mean?
Great question. It's really interesting because I have been in this inquiry for a while about how do I actually appropriately articulate what it even is that I do or how I support beings, because the work itself, just like thank you for that description of me, is very dynamic and it's big and it's multifaceted. And I just really had this sit down with myself and with spirit and just with the moment, right? Because I feel like the medicine itself that moves through me is expressing itself in a unique way, moment to moment. But in this time, that title, soul liberation through ecstatic creation, I'm like, oh wow, like I think I finally nailed it, because this is the essence of what I have been so like fortunate to be gifted in this lifetime. This is the thing I'm here to do, to not only bring myself into places and spaces where I'm so in my expression, that I'm in this energy of liberation, but that I can call that forward and invite other people into that place. And, the word ecstatic to me was really fun when that came through, because, I think we tend to associate the word ecstatic with really high states. And while that is true in many, many cases, I have found that in the like kind of constant exploration and practice of creativity as prayer, as a gift, as something that I can play in, that the word ecstatic itself comes into play even in those like harder, darker places where I'm up against a block or a shadow or something that feels resistant or something that feels stuck. And I can still choose into, okay, I really trust myself. I trust my body. I trust my voice. I trust the creative force that moves through me to support me in this. And then even the like tricky stuff, to me, I start to get off on it, right? Like it
Mm-hmm.
becomes ecstasy, because it just is. It's all part of the beauty in this like multi-layered journey. Because I believe that as humans, as souls coming into a human experience, we don't just come here for the rainbows and butterflies, right? We come here to experience like the full spectrum of what it means to be human, what it means to have a body, to experience this like indefinable soul essence through this very
And
finite like body. So that was kind of a long-winded answer, but that's what I got for you.
no, I like it. I like it. And just to add to that, it's kind of like this reality has a lot of pain. It has repression. It has pushing the pain down and trying to forget it, which the body and the consciousness doesn't want to forget it. It won't let you forget it. Comes out what we call a shadow. And to me, when that stuff and all of its painful repressions finally comes out and finds its way out of the dark and into freedom, it can be very ecstatic feeling.
Yeah,
And
100%.
and yeah, and whether you do it through the various ways, there's a lot of ways to get to those points with that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah. So it's all works. I just think that people avoid pain way too much as opposed to looking for its messages, looking for the fact that this reality just has that component in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
And
the pain itself is a teacher, and if we look at art kind of like overall across time, art has been a place where we can not only as artists take that pain and make it into something digestible and hopefully like alchemize it into something, then the audience can receive whatever that is and relate, and we have this connection point as humans. And I find that like we can't really avoid the pain or stuff it down, because then it becomes disease, it becomes bigger. Our bodies will start to speak
mm-hmm.
louder and louder and louder. And on the same note, we can actually approach the desire to heal pain, to transmute pain, to learn from pain. We can come at it from a couple of angles. And when we simply go into these creative practices, which I work mostly with movement and with song, we don't necessarily have to go into it being like, oh, there's all this pain and I'm going to I'm going to sing the pain or I'm going to dance the pain, we can. Or we can just say, my body is incredibly wise and intelligent. My soul is here with so many gifts. And I can just decide that I'm going to allow my body and my voice to be the healer. And I can trust that whatever pain, whatever disease, whatever ancestral trauma wants to kind of, unravel through me is going to do that. So we can approach it in different ways. But what I'm seeing is like, in this time in our evolution, we have for so long as humans kind of had pain as our central teacher in many ways, whether we are trying to avoid it or not. And actually, I'm noticing that we're in this transition where pain is still a teacher, yes, and pleasure itself can become the teacher. And then to take it a step further, and we all at some point in our like ecstatic soul expression practices will see this somewhere along the journey, that the bridge between pain and pleasure is actually really thin. They kind of hold like an opposite energy of the same pull. And
Yeah.
it's in those moments of like pure connection to source and the embodiment of like creativity that that line becomes blurred, that pain and pleasure kind of coexist, and that in itself to me is a form of ecstasy in some way.
And it's a part of dealing with the shadow. What you know, we're in we're in two different generations in age wise, in which I will not tell my age, and I'm surely not going to tell yours. There's a few years between us. We'll just say that. In my experience working through shamanic work over the last 20 years, I see every generation approach change differently. And there
Mm.
are some people in their 20s and 30s that use some of the same paradigms that people in their 50s and 60s do of this, well, I have to go through all of this angst and really feel it and get into the bottom of it. And then there are other people in that age group that just bounce. That's not the right word. They just go through it so much quicker. Like, oh, really? Do I really have to do it that way? Can
Mm.
I take this focus and bring it up and interact with it in a new way? And I don't and I think that yeah, some may be avoiding, but then I really see a lot of people shift out of the paradigms much quicker in the younger generations. It's almost like their DNA is designed to.
Yes. Well, I mean, if we think about like, and I'm no astrology expert, right? But we have come out, I believe, of the Piscean age and we're in the Aquarian age. And the Piscean age was actually all about this like learning through pain, this self sacrifice, this martyrdom, this like sacrificial lamb, this work hard to reap the rewards. And
Mm-hmm.
I believe that that had to happen and that generation had to pave that path so that, I'm going to just go ahead and say your generation could shift and
Not
refine that.
offended.
Huh?
Not offended.
Beautiful. It's all perfect. And by the way, you totally can say my age. I am in no way hiding from my age. I am going to be 41 in a couple weeks, and I love being in my 40s. And it's just a joy. It's a joy to age, and I'm not fighting it, and I'm really enjoying it. But anyway, it's like this Piscean age had to pave the path for this new coding, this new kind of expression where we can alchemize and move through pain very quickly. And I mean, I have had my fair share of like deep dark journeying into and through the pits of hell. Like I certainly have done a lot of that. And it all has its gift because it's like as deep as you can go into the darkness, you can expand. Everything is harmonizing, and you can feel then the higher heights, and
Hmm.
vice versa. It's kind of always balancing itself out, but different people get medicine from different experiences of that. And some people are here more to, I don't want to say to stay in the pain. That's the wrong word. Nobody should really sit in it for too long.
Well, some people don't know when it's time to leave.
Yeah, yeah.
You
Well,
know,
because
they go. I got to keep repeating this because maybe I haven't gotten all the lessons. And I look at them and go, maybe you've really seen, the eye of it and looked it straight in the face. And what you're dealing with now are little recordings that have been, you know, stuck away, and you can react to the recordings or just say, oh, those are old recordings, little tape loops in my mind, and I'm really can give myself permission to
mm,
just move on.
yeah,
um, so you grew up dancing and performing, and one of the unique things that I got, Gina and I and another friend, Elise Falzoni, hope I got that right, um,
you were close.
all sh- all shared a tour together in Southwest France, and so I got to see Gina in action, uh, leading the group. Uh, and you were just extremely charismatic. And as you told me your childhood story, it was like that made sense because you had to make everybody happy in your childhood, and yet you have turned that into a talent and something to feel joyful about.
Mm,
That, wow, I can really uplift people, move them up, and stay in this high state. And I don't think you're hiding from something. Um,
yeah,
so I think that's coming around the whole spectrum with it, of knowing
def-
yourself.
definitely. I mean, it's been such a journey, and I really am like, full spectrum is a really good way to speak to it, because you know, I really am in a place now where I'm noticing that the exact things that I am meant to share with the world, and the things that bring me abundance and connection and help me feel alive and on purpose, are the literal things that I did as a child just because I wanted to do them. Like, I was that little girl who would sit my whole family down at Christmas and say, okay, I have a performance for you. And I would sing and dance. And there was so much joy in just not only expressing myself without any agenda. I mean, in second grade, I would put on talent shows just so that I could perform. And oftentimes I wouldn't even have a plan. I would just put on music and start moving, and the whole school would come to these talent shows that I put on just so that I could share. And there was nothing to it. Like, back then I wasn't thinking like, oh, am I too far in my ego? Do I need to be validated? Anything like that. I was just in the pureness of the expression. And so I recognize now that, like, not only is it a gift to myself to be expressed, to drop into my body and move, to sing, to just let spirit move through me in these ways, but it is, in fact, a gift to the people who get to witness me in this expression, and also a gift to the people who I get to hold the space and say, hey, there is something in you, in your body, in your voice, in your creativity, in your sensuality, that is so perfect and so special. And I'm here to hold you in that and remind you of your divinity. And it's just like, I just get to see over and over again. I mean, something that you saw happen in real time in France was this big vocal activation for one of the women that was there, where she just opened, and these gorgeous ancestral song lines just started pouring out of her. And I get to see these all the time. And to me, I'm like, oh, this is spirit. This is spirit expressing through you. This is the gifts of your ancestors moving through you. And when we give
It's
space for,
almost
oh, go ahead.
it's almost as if, or at least how I saw it, was the people were just igniting something deep inside of themselves. And it might come through a song, but then they may take that home and find another application completely different.
Yes,
It's like, oh,
absolutely.
I get what this feels like.
Yeah.
And that's a wonderful form of coaching.
Yeah, well, and I say this to my students all the time, like when I teach dance, I say to them all the time, like, the moves themselves don't really matter. Like, you can say what you need to say as a soul through any vehicle, through your words, through the way that you just focus with your eyes, through emanating your energy. You can write it down, you can stomp it out. Like, there's just so many ways that we can communicate. But when
Mm,
we practice singing our song lines or moving our bodies and we choose into opening the space for the expression, it paves new pathways of possibility. So, where maybe formally you had a challenging time telling a loved one that you were feeling unseen or whatever, but then you can go to France and you can have your voice be heard by all of nature and the cherub Isis and your soul family that's there with you. And then suddenly you come home and it's no problem to say to that person, hey, I'm feeling unseen. And here's what I want to share with you, because that pathway has opened itself.
indeed. Well put. Because it is about breaking through. And that's so much about what creativity and such does for somebody. Uh, I've been dancing. I don't think I told you this. I've been dancing almost every day for the past year. I'm an old dancer, danced a lot in my 20s, did all kinds of classes. But I brought it back up. And what I keep seeing in creativity is that every step that you take in a creative form, it teaches you something for the next step, and then the next step, and the next step. And I have no ambition to ever perform. I don't have to put it out on the streets. It's just like I already have becoming quantum conscious, which is really fun. And the dancing just teaches me that I can have multitudes of dreams,
Mm,
multitudes of creativities, all happening that are really fun.
yes, I love that you're bringing forward dreams. I remember there was a time where I was maybe, I want to say, less expressed through my body when I became a
What?
mom.
It's that's hard to believe, but please go
Well,
on.
well, I'll preface this by saying it's all perfect, and it offered me such a unique gift. And when I gave birth to my daughter, I always say she birthed me. She birthed like a new iteration of me. Um, but after I gave birth to her, I had a slew of health challenges. I had issues with
Mm.
my thyroid. I was like 40 pounds overweight. I felt depressed. I was lethargic. It was digestive issues. It was just brain fog. There was so much going on. And I won't get into all the nuance of that. I think
Well,
many,
that's a pretty good big picture, and so many people have had that same thing. So I just can't wait to say, Gina, what did you do about it?
yes, well, it took me a while, and I will say it's been a step by step, next right step. But I suppose in the here and now, what I want to share about this is that I can't even remember exactly what you said that kind of sparked me to want to talk about this, but oh, the dreams and the creativity. So, in this journey of my health, I just physically didn't have enough energy. And what I didn't really realize, what I see now so clearly, is that we all have these moments. And it's sometimes the very thing that you are resisting because you feel like you don't have the energy to do it, or the capacity to do it, or you're not good enough, or you can't do it in the same way. Because for me with dancing, you know, I had a child. I grew a child. I birthed a child. I had an unplanned C-section and an urgent C-section in the hospital after I planned a home birth. And, then I had all this stuff and new motherhood and not really much support on the ground. It was pretty much just my partner and myself and our daughter, which is like, I know now, like the whole, it takes a village, like that is huge.
Yeah.
Um, but there was a time in there where, so for me, it was like I had associated movement with such a unique physicality. My body, from the time I was, hit puberty until right before I got pregnant, I had some little shifts and changes, but I was in pretty much the same form for all those years. And then after having given birth, it was a completely different body. And it was just like, I didn't even know how to meet myself in that form. And so I went into a bit of a freeze response because it was like, I just don't even know how to approach this. And step by step by step, I did. But what I remember very, very clearly one moment after I had already kind of started, and this actually is what birthed my career as an energy healer and medicine woman. Was when I gave birth to my daughter, I thought, oh, I'm just going to keep choreographing and dancing and teaching and auditioning. And I just literally could not. I physically couldn't do it. Like I took her on a couple of journeys where I flew with her and did choreography jobs when she was a little baby. And anyway, so I started my healing journey and started facilitating. And anyway, I had this session with one of my mentors. Her name's Amma Sophia Rose. She is incredible. If y'all don't know who she is, check her out. And she said to me, Gina, you just you have to get back in your body. And she said at the time she had this vision of me moving my body and singing my songs and feeling my dreams and literally manipulating reality to call my dreams in and to magnetize the energy of my dreams. And at the time I heard her say it, okay, I need to get in my body. And I was like, okay, I know, I'm working on it. And I was step by step, slowly kind of re-meeting myself. I had to meet myself anew. I had to meet this new version of myself through the body. And it took a long time. It was, me, Bart. I'm typically, my nature is very fast. I have a lot of fire.
You're going like this.
Yes, always. And at that time, I was not. I was slow. I was very slow moving. And I know now that there was so much medicine in that for me because it gave me such a deeper sense of compassion. It helped me learn to love my body at all shapes and sizes, to know that I can still be magnetic and magical, even when and if I'm moving through really, really heavy stuff. But anyway, I share all of this to say it actually was fairly recently I found myself in that exact practice that she had shared with me, I don't know, 5 years ago now, literally moving my body, singing my songs, envisioning my dreams and calling them in. And you are so correct when you say that the movement can show you so much about your dreams. When you really can just be in this relationship with your body and what it has to share with you, the potency of that is crazy.
It is. It's like every new skill you develop in your creative practices, whether you're painting or dancing or singing or gardening, you're throwing in all of these nuances, but it's also teaching you what a great creator you are at everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one woman in the tour um, from Chicago. She was a great artist at details.
Mm-hmm.
And she just had this mind, and she could see the whole picture of everything really clearly. And I just had a few conversations with her, but she had taken years to develop those things. But that's what creativity really teaches us. And we could apply it to becoming a teacher or a better business person or a better communicator. and all comes into effect with that. I was a semi-professional artist for 10 years, and I was working on this woman's home fixing a little thing, and she goes, "Oh, you must be Virgo because you have such an eye for detail." And I'm going, "No, I'm an artist, and you're not going to sell a piece if it looks, you know, not perfect in its presentation." Uh, so everything about creativity has so many multiple aspects. And I just want to tell everybody that you are talking to Gina Starbuck, and our show tonight is Soul Liberation Through Ecstatic Creation. She is a dance teacher, dance coach, also personal coach, also leads tours of personal development and ecstatic development at different sacred sites throughout the world.
Mhm.
Am I missing anything in that?
Mm,
Um, Singer.
singer, sound healer, Akashic Records reader.
Yeah, that's what
There's
creative people do.
yeah, there's so many things, but I think soul liberation through ecstatic creation is kind of the essence of what I support. It's the perfect title.
Yes, yes, it's a wonderful path that we can all get privy to. And before we go into the next questions, I want to tell everybody that you can find Gina at ginastarbuckcoaching.com. And you are on Becoming Quantum Conscious. My name is Bart Sharp, and this is the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network out of New Orleans, Louisiana. 107.7 and 105.3. Also broadcasting on Roku, Facebook, YouTube, X, and other internet platforms. So, how how do you take this creativity and help somebody coach or be coached into finding something greater than themselves?
Mm, this is a really powerful question. And what's coming to me most immediately is at least my belief and my experience is that when we connect deeply with ourselves on a soul level, we automatically find something that we might call greater than ourselves, because I've seen it time and time again. There's different ways to approach this, right? But it's like the deeper you go inward, all the way into your soul spark, right? In that nucleus, in that center point, it it opens up to the all there is because of this
Mm.
interconnected nature, and vice versa, right? A lot of people do go seeking out, high to the highest point they can find. But the furthest point you go out, to me, what I found is, where does it lead you? Right back to the center. So it's this infinite dance, and it's part of the beauty and the comedy, right? Um, but there's a lot of different ways that we can kind of activate and be in this practice. And I suppose what I want to say in general is it's always my intention and my work to do just that, to support people in going inward to themselves. I'm not in the I don't desire to be exalted in any way. I don't desire for any of my clients or students to see me as the guru or the better than. I'm simply here holding this space for you to recognize and come into contact with the divinity, with the wisdom, and with the you that is beyond this particular body. But wildly, that medicine, that message, that wisdom lives in the body. It lives inside of every single cell. We're made of the same thing as the stars. And so,
and and you use a word earlier saying soul spark, which to
mhm.
me, is kind of like right in the center, the reference point of the second chakra. It's like the most central point of your being, of
Mm-hmm.
who you are. And as watching you work with the group, I mean, we would expand, we would go in so deep, almost like to bring so much energy into the second area, in the womb area, and all of those parts, just to have kind of a, not only it was in part expansion, but you're also going in deep for an internal explosion to happen. Like, oh,
Mm.
this is me. I am a big bang in there. There's a big bang in me. Oh, that's juicy.
That's so juicy, and that's the perfect way to describe it. So thank you for that soundbite, because I'm constantly like, how do I even explain what I do to people? It's so infinite and it's so
Well,
multi-layered.
so I had to share experience on the tour. Uh, uh, Gina's partner in the tour was Elise. Uh, Fal- Say her last name again.
Falzone.
Falzone, Elise Falzone. And we were in this ancient cave with this huge white light energy from this big rock. But there's also this pentangle that was in the wall about 7 feet high. You had to climb about 7 feet off the ground to get to the base of the pentangle. So you're way up there. You're really vulnerable, and you're flat on your back against the wall, and this huge amount of energy is moving through you, so profound that it feels like it's going to push you out of the wall. And what Elise and Gina were doing was like, let's take it to the big bang of the second chakra and shout it out. And we were all being a part of it, doing our sound vibrations. And it was, it would be kind of passe to say that it was cosmically orgasmic, but it was really ecstatic. It felt really amazing.
I would say it was cosmically orgasmic. I mean, I walked out of that cave calling it the orgasm cave, I think. So,
Woohoo!
yeah, it really is. It's that, someone once described the energy and the essence of an orgasm, like even just taking sex or sexuality out of it, right? Because we can have orgasmic, ecstatic states without sex. With it, we
Yep.
can as well. But someone described it as the point in which you are holding so much light and so much goodness and so much creative energy, creation itself, that you can't hold it anymore, that you just burst open.
Yeah.
And part of the reason why I titled the show, ecstatic creation, is that really is like, the more we go in and the more we refine and the more, I internally do these practices or guide other people in these practices, that is where we arrive. Because the deeper we go in, like we said before, the more you realize and recognize that it really is just pure divinity and power and light and perfection. And
Mm-hmm.
some people, it takes longer to arrive at that point. A lot of what I offer people is really a safe space to lean into the pain, to investigate traumas where traumas might have been seeded from this lifetime, from other lifetimes, from ancestral coding that gets carried in. And, it's like, in that process, whether we do arrive at this, what we're going to call ecstatic state or not, like you were saying with the dancing, it's like there's always these points along the way where we just learn and we meet ourselves a little bit more and we get a little bit closer to that mirror and we're able to like look at ourselves. This is both literal and figurative, but to look at ourselves in the eyes and go, wow, like you actually are holy. We come here and we forget that we're holy, perfect perfection, that we are literal God, goddess in these bodies, just
Yeah.
expressing and living and creating. And for me, the gift of watching that over and over again in the many, many ways that it might unfold is like so beyond delightful. Like, how could I not walk into a room and expand the energy, you know, because I get to live my life
Yeah,
witnessing these processes.
if you're really in touch with that source or that soul spark in your second chakra, that where it vibrates and you know it, and you have, a lot of the vision of what that actually is. You think, oh, that must be really tiny, but the actuality is that it expands your whole embodiment to where you knock people over 10 feet away with your energy, uh, because it is a place where you're dancing with the infinite.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus and Mary Magdalene would have called it hydros gamos, which would have been the soul communion with two people.
Mm-hmm.
But they're just two spirit people that really know the spiritual bodies that they were embodied and practicing it together in a very strong, loving way. Because
Mm-hmm.
the love ingredient is a big part of it. And which brings me to that question. It's like, how much do you love doing this work?
No, I think I said it before. I mean, I adore this work. Like, I get off on this work, to be honest. It's beyond. And at this point too, in my practice and in my offerings, like, I really am only calling in people that are like really here for it. Because one of the things I've had to learn about myself with this big energy, I have a lot of Leo in my chart. I'm actually sun sign Virgo, but
Mm-hmm.
my Mars and Venus are in Leo. And I have this, like, it's just part of who I am. It's this big, big energy. And there's something about me. The 59th gene key, for those that are into gene keys, is my life's work. And the 59th gene key is all about intimacy, deep, deep intimacy. And to me, much of that has to do with intimacy with ourselves. And so the people that I connect with have to, I'm going to say have to, be ready to some degree to meet themselves in that deep intimacy, in that inner union, right? That Jesus and Mary Magdalene, perfected and taught us so beautifully in their union. We have the capacity to meet ourselves, our inner divine feminine and masculine holiness, and we have to be willing, and not everybody is willing. And so I've gone
Yeah.
through phases of, like, maybe having not clear boundaries, or like, working with people and like hoping that they can like get it pulled out of them. And that's, I'm not saying that it's not possible for everybody, because this type of inner union, ecstatic creation, this soul spark blow up thing that you talked about, it is possible for everybody. And on the same note, like, if I am going to be in this work, there has to be a degree of willingness and desire and capacity to really go there. Like, just this morning, I had a client session, and this actually came in and kind of surprised both of us. But there was this thing that happened through her where it was like, kind of, what do I want to say? Like correcting a potential future timeline through her,
Mm-hmm.
through her body, through her soul essence and emanation. And with that, she physically was moving through all the pain of the timeline, the possibility where it could have went, I don't want to say wrong or bad, because everything just is, but where it could have went
Yeah.
really dark and really painful. And this was like a global collective thing. And so that's the other piece. It's like, I know I'm not really answering your question directly, but this is what's coming
No,
in for me.
we're having a good journey with this, honey.
It feels important and it's very present. It's like, you kind of have to be willing to also, and I've done this work myself, which is why I can support others in doing it, You have to be willing to meet all the parts of you, all of the timelines that you have traveled, all of the ancestral coding that you have access to, all of the planetary realities, all of it. And not all of it is rainbows and butterflies, but the more you can
No, no.
go, yeah, the more you can go all the
There's,
way within it, the more you
there's
can help correct the future timelines for everybody.
indeed, because when one person actualizes, it opens a doorway for others to do it. It
Mm-hmm.
works in that way. There's so many people that are doing normal and they're stuck in the matrix of normal. When somebody really breaks through it, it's just because that other opportunity. There's two qualities that I'd like to mention in that process that you've been talking about, and that is confidence and forgiveness.
Mm.
And so, as we as healers come along, we make all kinds of mistakes. You would in any profession. And but you're dealing with people on a very intimate level. Many of us are inventing a lot of the things that we do. We're almost like creating our job description in a lot of cases. There's, even as a therapist, there's not an absolute science about it. You're out there surfing a lot, so you really have to forgive yourself for making mistakes. And then there comes a point in everybody's life that they gain the confidence that what they have is a true gift.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes in various times and at various levels in people's lives. And nobody can really tell you when that is for you. And you always have to be careful and not to be grandiose about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a place of humility.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Humanity, right? Like for me, I can very confidently talk about the gifts that I have to offer from a place of like, it's amazing. And I can also recognize that I am no better or worse than anybody else, that every
yeah,
single human that I come into contact with has unique gifts that are so unique to them, that we all offer things that only can come and emerge through us. And we might have threads, right, that like interweave with each other and similarities, but
yeah.
everybody has gifts and everybody has beauty, and that's something that like I really hold dear to me. Like if ever there's any sense of hierarchy coming in, like we might witness someone as, oh, they've walked the path before me, like I see many of my mentors in that way, but I don't see them as better than me or stronger or more powerful, because we all just are. Like
Yep.
we're all perfect and we all have it. So
And
thank you.
vulnerabilities and mistakes and shortcomings and all of those things that a pain body and a light body have together as a human body.
Mm-hmm.
What a process. What fun. And what a better way to describe it through dancing. I don't know about you, but whenever I dance well, and all of these steps and moves that I keep developing, even as a young man, but now in my 60s, um, it feels like when everything comes together, it feels like I'm flying,
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know. And that's something that I encourage everybody to do that's listening is find something that you can develop so you can really appreciate your own fine tunements, your
Mm-hmm.
finer places. Dancing is, to me, really easy because it's in the moment. You have to be right there, but I felt that in a lot of different things. It can also be in a conversation, and like what we're having tonight, we did not plan this,
Definitely not.
but yet I think it's going really good.
I think so too. And I love that, for me, it's like, yes, set a container, right? Like we need containers, we need space held, We need clear, healthy, strong boundaries. We need intentions. And for me, at this point in my life, the less I can plan, the better, because spirit always comes in and just wows me with whatever, like anything I could plan or plot is cool. But when spirit comes through, it's just so much more.
Okay. So let's ask the audience. I want you to answer this question. How do you know what are some of the best things that have helped you learn how to hear spirit? How does that
Mm,
work?
mm. Oh gosh, I wish we had like another hour.
Hey, you got 2 minutes on this one, you know.
I know. Well, for me, it's a muscle that you develop, and some people come in with the muscle kind of already more developed than others. And, just like our physical bodies, we might come in with really strong calves and or not, and we can go in the gym and we can work our calves, right? It's something that comes with practice and also with trust. I may have already said that, but self
No, you didn't.
trust.
Say it
Um,
again.
self
Trust.
trusting. But there are ways to know. Like, I do have a lot of clients and friends who ask me, like, how do I know if this is like an actual intuitive message, or if this is just my trauma, or this is my fear? And that's where these body explorations come in and these practices come in. Like, I have some practices that I take people through where we learn, because everybody is different. There may be similarities, but we look at and we feel into where does a yes land in your body? Where does a
Mm,
no land in your body? When there's interference, because we deal with that too, right? Especially when we're talking about the psychic realms and intuition, sometimes there's interference. And so how do you recognize when there's interference? Like, the example for me is a yes in my body. When I know this is absolute truth, I feel settled in my heart but open, and my
mm,
muscles feel like they could be mobile and they could move and they could be strong, but they're also relaxed. They're not like,
wow.
nothing's overly tense or activated. When something's a no for me, I feel wiriness in my throat. like I need
Wow.
to talk, but I can't quite get it out. And sometimes,
And
oh, go ahead. And sometimes I get like a ringing in my ears with a no. And then I just want to
and
add one more thing. Can I share about the interference for me too? How I know
go
that?
ahead. Go ahead.
And then with the interference, I often feel like there's interference for me shows up a lot in my head, and it feels like there's like needles poking inward oftentimes, or it'll feel like something's tugging at me, trying to kind of like take me off balance. And I've learned
Mm,
this through practice and through exploration, and the movement practices themselves have been my number one teacher in this.
that's wonderful. For me, it's expansion in my heart. It gets really light and expands, and also
Mm.
often to the degree of how big of a yes it is. And the other is my stomach feels flat. And so I think the message we're both trying to convey is listen to your body, and it will find a way to give you a signal. We're
Mm-hmm.
coming to the end of our show. And Gina, I want you to think about a 1 minute message you'd like to give everybody. And while you're thinking about that, I want to tell everybody that you are on Becoming Quantum Conscious. I am Bart Sharp, and this is Gina Starbuck from Gina Starbuck Coaching.com. And that's Starbuck coaching. But you're also on United Public Radio and UFO Paranormal Radio networks at 107.7 and 103.5 out of New Orleans, Louisiana. You're also on Roku, X, Facebook, YouTube, and other internet platforms. Um, and I am Bart Sharp once again. So, Gina, what party messages do you have with everybody?
Oh my goodness. When you use the wording think about it, I had to take a second because I was like, the thought process. I'm going to just drop into my heart for a moment and just feel what's present. I suppose what I want to conclude with is a bit of a reiteration of what we have already talked about. It is the very clear, very embodied immanence of the knowing that I have within me that you, Bart, and that anybody who's listening, you already are perfect, whole, and holy, that there is this spark of creation and life force and beauty and power and love within you, within your body, that is just waiting to be expressed, waiting to be loved and to be valued and to be explored. And no, you probably won't get it perfect, but that is the beauty of this life, that we all are perfectly imperfect. And I trust that if something is moving through you, that it has its purpose, just as you, as a soul, have a purpose on this planet. You came here at this time, this really pivotal, powerful time in our collective evolution, with such a unique piece of this cosmic puzzle that you are here to deliver. So I hope that this time that Bart and I have shared has filled you up, has nourished your soul, and I hope that you can just take a moment to just breathe into that you are
Mm,
absolutely perfect.
totally beautiful. Thank you for so much for being on the show tonight, Gina, and hope to see you again in the future. And I hope to see everybody else next week with Becoming